What's up? What's up? Hope y'all having a beautiful, beautiful afternoon right now. Right. The title of today's discussion is Manifestation Begins Where Pretending Ends. So the kingdom is within you. Let me make sure I'm live and we'll get started. All right. So, like always, the document will be on YouTube. You can always catch the discussions on YouTube. Don't take them down. But if you have any questions, just leave them in the chat. So let's get started. So the first quote that we're going to talk about is the path into the kingdom of God is not found through effort or pretense, but through surrender. What this discussion is going to be about is dropping the false identity of who you think you are, right? It is beginning to trust that the desires that you have are actually pointing you to the most authentic version of you. And the person that you are right now without that desire is not the most authentic version of you, right? You're getting a glimpse into who you're meant to be by your desire, by that inner vision, by having that chief idea or that chief goal for where you want to point your life. All right? And so oftentimes we'll get to the point where we get into the manifestation space and we believe in order to get to the chief aim, the top desire, we have to pretend to be someone. When really it's the opposite. We have to detach. We have to detach from thinking that we could act out of alignment with that ideal version of ourselves. We have to detach from our emotions, from our feelings. Right? And we have to allow ourselves to be with simply the inner knowing that what we want is already ours, that we already are the person that we are supposed to be, which can be, a difficult thing to wrap our minds around because we're always in this striving mode, try to do better mode, achieve, and try to hustle and grind it out mode, right? So this is I'm gonna try to offer this concept in a different way, right? So there comes a moment on the spiritual path when you realize the future isn't waiting for you out there, right? It's vibrating inside of you right now. It's not a destination on a calendar, but a frequency that your soul must learn to match. You don't walk into your destiny, you become it. And yet so many remain trapped in cycles of delay, not because they lack desire, but because they refuse to die to the false self that can't carry the weight of what they've asked for. We try to ascend while still holding on to what we've outgrown. Identities built for survival, egos inflated by applause, masks polished for performance. But there is a spiritual law written in both scripture and nature. Only what is real can rise, and only what is surrendered can be filled. All right. What are we talking about when we say many remain trapped in cycles of delay? Not because they lack desire, right? Not because they lack desire, but because they refuse to die to the false self that can't carry the weight of what they've asked for. All right. And if you want to get the document is on YouTube, on the YouTube channel. The link's in the bio. And I keep these up, so you can always download them. You can always pull them. But they're just documents that I put together. All right. So when we believe that our destiny is in the future and we buy into the illusion of this world that we're in, what tends to happen is we put on this mask and we say, or we get this idea in our mind and we say, okay, we have to work to make it to this ideal person. And when I'm finally that ideal person, I'll be in alignment with everything that I want. All right. When I finally think this way, behave this way, act this way, when I have these things, now I'll be in alignment with everything that I want. But that is an illusion. As long as you are projecting this into the future, you'll always find things that you need to work on. Right. When we talk about things like the healing journey, right? As long as you believe that you need to heal, you will always find things that you need to heal from. All right. So this is one of the illusions of life. This is one of the illusions. Is thinking that you are not already in alignment with what you want right now. If you weren't in alignment, you couldn't even want it. There's certain people that want to be doctors. Not everybody does. Certain people want to be attorneys. Not everybody does. Some people want to be millionaires. Some people want to live in seclusion. Some people want to live in the city. You could not desire this if you were not in alignment. And so just by thinking that you have to do things to get into alignment what you're actually saying is you don't believe that you're in alignment, right? Just by believing you have to do things to get worthy. You have to bring up a feeling to get worthy means that you feel like you're not worthy, right? That is where the illusion is, right? So we trap ourselves, we put ourselves in this cycle of delay, not because we lack desire for this thing, but because we refuse to die to the false self. It is your ego that creates separation, all right? Before you descended here, you were in absolute unity with Source, unity with everything that you want. And you came down here and you developed an ego. And the ego creates time, right? You go through this construct, and this construct is actually built on a linear time frame, so you can experience things unfolding from within you. But your ego loves separation. Your ego loves to judge everything outside of it as truly being outside of it. Your ego loves to find things to make you feel safe. It loves to build an identity around whatever you are going through, right? And one of the ways that it tricks us is that the moment we have a desire, we immediately bring our ego to the party. This is why it says you have to be like children to enter the kingdom, right? Because we immediately bring our ego to the party, and our ego is like, all right, yeah, I know you want that, but what about this? What about this factor? What about your job? You already had performance reviews, right? What about that? I know you want this new car, but what about the payments on it, right? Your ego always comes in, and what it is actually trying to do is just keep you safe. It's not doing this from a destructive perspective. It's not trying to hurt you or bring you down. This is just a mechanism of survival. This is how you've always had to survive. All right. So we have to be like children. We have to go to a place where we understand when I go within myself into my desires, this is sacred. I have to leave my ego outside. All right. So I simply look at my desires and say, okay, I know that the moment, because the kingdom is within me, because Source is within me, the moment that I have a desire, I think of a desire, I want something, this is the same as it being planted in my mind. So at the same time that I'm asking for something, I'm also receiving the answer of yes, right? And what this desire really is, it's a glimpse of who you really are. It is saying that this is who you really are, and everything that you are living right now is an illusion, right? And so now it is our job to accept that as true, to accept that this is the promised land for us, and to actually walk accordingly. What happens when we have fear, we have doubt, frustration, we feel separate from these things, right? This is just basically it's a clue, right? What it really is you have an assumption about yourself that's not in alignment with who you really are. And that assumption of yourself, since there's only one energy, there's only one emotion being Source, right? You just experience that emotion in different ways based on your assumptions, based on your expectations, right? Because you can be in a situation right now. Let me put it like this. You can be in a situation right now. And when you're in that situation, because you have a positive expectation of how everything is going to turn out, you could be quote unquote positive. If you have a negative expectation of how it's going to turn out, you are going to be quote unquote negative. It's not that the energy is different from within you. The energy of happiness is the same as the energy of sadness or doubt. It is just that energy being filtered through your ego. You are pure positive energy. You are pure Source energy, pure God energy, pure divine energy. However, your assumptions act as a filter. And so if you're in a situation and you're not in tune with who you are, and you don't understand that because God is within you, everything is unfolding perfectly. If you don't understand the nature of a mirror, that sometimes a mirror can look a little crazy. Sometimes to us, it can look backwards when really it's for us, right? Then we can have a negative assumption. Oh, it's not going to work out. And we have a negative feeling. We're just filtering the energy of who we are, that Source, that divine energy of who we are, through an assumption that is not true about ourselves. It's not true about us. So the battle is faith, right? The battle is confronting these false beliefs about ourselves and reminding ourselves who we are. This is why consciousness is so important. When we're conscious of who we are, now we can confront all of our emotions. We don't hide from them. We don't suppress them. We don't make it this game of, oh, if I'm in a positive emotion, that means I'm in alignment. No, you're in alignment regardless. If you say that you're in alignment, you're in alignment, right? But when we think that our emotions are tied to our vibration, are tied to our alignment, then what we'll do is we'll naturally start suppressing these negative emotions when they're just trying to give you clarity. They're just trying to give you clues about what you're assuming, what you're expecting in the moment. And if they're negative, more than likely it's a false belief. It's not conducive to who you really are. So we have to confront all of our emotions with love, because this is what they are. This is just the loving energy of source flowing through you, and it feels negative because you have a false assumption about yourself. That's all. Right? It's not meant for you to beat up yourself. Okay? It's not meant for you to think that you have this long healing journey to go on. You can immediately confront that quote unquote negative emotion with a positive expectation. Give yourself grace. Give yourself grace. All right, I'm remembering myself incorrectly. All right. I'm not seeing this situation for what it really is. It is just the unfolding of life that is leading me to my desire. You're in a place right now in your life, and you have a place that you want to be. And in order to get there, life has to change. It has to change fast, quickly. And sometimes in that changing process, it just doesn't look right. Right? That doesn't mean that it's wrong. It's always working out for you. The only way that it won't be working out for you is if you say that it won't. Thou shalt decree a thing and it shall be. So it's always up to your assumption. It's always your word. You always have final word on everything. If you say it's working out perfectly, it's divine timing, the God within me is perfect, so the situation must be perfect, then guess what? It is. But when we start matching things that we don't want with speaking out, decreeing that they're things that we don't want, we actually, oh shit, I didn't mean to do that. We actually make them match. We actually become a match, hook up to that thing, and then we create more of it in our life. All right? So there is a spiritual law written in both scripture and nature. Only what is real can rise, and only what is surrendered can be filled. So this is a discussion about becoming the frequency of the future by shedding every lie you've used to stay small. It's about realizing that God cannot feel what you are still pretending to be. If you're still stuck in that old identity of lack, that old identity that does not think that you are worthy for the things that you desire, well then you're still pretending to be somebody that you aren't. You have to let go of that. You have to heal that version of you. You have to renew your mind. How often? Every moment until this new version of you is who you are. All right? The illusion is thinking that the false version of yourself is real. The version of you that thinks that they're not worthy is real. You could never be unworthy because source is within you. How could source be unworthy? How could source be undeserving of anything? You are all that there is. You are all that there is. Okay? So heaven doesn't pour itself into personas. It waits for the soul who dares to be naked and honest. Dare to question your beliefs as false. Dare to speak against yourself. Speak against that false version of yourself. That version of yourself that says, man, I don't know if we're in alignment. Speak against it. Be bold enough. Have the audacity. Understand your divinity. Understand the power of your words enough to speak against those false claims. It's just your ego trying to protect you. That's all. And the moment that you speak against it and you continue to speak against it, eventually it gets on board, right? But who are you being right now? All right, so your prayers are not being ignored. They're simply incompatible with the energy that you're emitting. The kingdom is not coming someday. This is an illusion. The kingdom doesn't come one day when I'm worthy, one day after I've done all this healing, after I've done all this work. It's not coming someday. It is here right now, vibrating at the level of your most authentic self. But to rise into that kingdom, you must die, not physically, but spiritually. This is the death of the mask, the funeral of the performance, and the sacred return to who you really are. All right? So there is no distant land called the future. When we think about the future and the past, I want us to really start to break these down. Both of these are just thoughts. The past are just thoughts. The future are just thoughts. What makes one more real than the other is your assumption, is you assume the past is more real. But as we all know, two of us could sit in the same room, see the same thing, and have two completely different memories of it, experience reality completely different than one another. Whose reality is true? Whose isn't? Well, this is a trick question because both realities are true, but they're both different, but you were in the same place. How can this be? Because your thoughts are real. Your thoughts of the past are real no matter how you construct them. Your thoughts of the future are real no matter how you construct them. However, this is the kicker. This is the wrench, right? Is that from this present moment, based on who you are being, you remember the past differently. Based on who you are being right now. Who you are being right now is not just projected in the future and changing the future. It is also projected into the past and it's changing your past. If right now you had a positive outlook on life, you would think about the past differently. You would think about the future differently. If you had a negative outlook on life, you would think about the past differently. You would think about the future differently. All right? So who you are right now, this source energy that you are in this present moment is being projected both into the future and into the past. All right? So there is no distant land called the future, no golden hour where suddenly worth descends. There is no time where if you've done all this work, suddenly you will be worthy. Even when we think about discipline, because I talk about discipline a lot when it comes to career or business or whatever. One of the purposes of discipline is that when you do things over and over and over and over and over and over and over again for such a long period of time, you will eventually feel worthy. And when you feel worthy, the blessings can pour. However, you don't need to do things multiple times to feel worthy. You can feel worthy right now. Okay? But this is one of the purposes of business or of discipline. This is why we say hard work pays off. Because when you do something over and over and over and over and over again, it becomes second nature. You feel worthy of the reward eventually. Okay? This is what an affirmation is. Eventually you feel worthy. You can think of everything in your life as an affirmation. Not just the words you speak, but what are you doing? Okay? If you constantly eat healthy, eventually you're going to feel worthy of a healthier body, of a healthier lifestyle. You work out every day, you're going to feel worthier. You speak certain words over and over again, you feel more worthy, right? But what I'm saying is that thought process is backwards. You don't have to do a whole bunch of things to feel worthy. You can immediately feel worthy right now. Thinking that the future, there's some place in the future where all of a sudden that's where all of your worthiness is, right? This is an illusion. Like all these journeys, the healing journey, all these journeys are illusions. You will never get to the end. You will never say, oh, I'm healed. We say it all the time. Oh, I don't think anyone ever truly heals. But then on the other hand, we say, oh, come heal to the relationship. Which one is it? Okay? The moment that you believe that your worthiness is out there in the future, your healing is out there in the future, you could never be unhealed. You could never be unwhole because source is within you. The God within you could never be unworthy, unwhole, could never need healing. It's a contradicting statement to make that the kingdom is within you, that God is within you, that you are source, but you need to heal. Okay? So there's no golden hour where suddenly worth descends. There's no time in the future where suddenly you feel worthy. This is a knowing. This is stripping away the illusion and understanding that, oh shit, because God is within me, I have to be worthy. I could be nothing less. All right, so the future is not ahead, it is within. All right? There's nothing out there. All right, there's nothing down there in linear time. There's nothing outside you. It's all within you. If you want to go to the future, close your eyes and go within you. Go into your imagination. This is where the future is. The future is within you. Okay? So you do not walk toward it. You don't walk toward anything. You awaken into it. Right? But the paradox is this. You cannot hold what is divine while clinging to what is disguised. You can't hold on to those promises, those desires that are in your heart, that are in your mind, while still clinging to this old identity that thinks you're unworthy. Choose one. You have to choose one. You have to make a choice. You can't be double-minded. You can't hold on to the things that you want and on the other hand say, well, one day when I'm worthy. You have to make the decision right now that you are worthy. Right? It is only until you make the decision, right? You can't get it until you make that decision. And that decision is simple. It's not a feeling that you pull up. It's like we talk about, it's like your age. One day you could be 21, the next day you can be 22. You don't feel different. You simply make a choice in your mind that you are worthy, that you are in alignment, that you are already all that you need to be. Right? So what Neville said when he says, the only thing keeping you from that desire is you refuse to believe that you already are the person that has it. Because you have the desire, you already are the person who has it. The only person that is creating delay in your life is you, by thinking, okay, if I do this for X amount of time, right? I put my desires, I attach them to some future event that's not real. The future is not real. There is no future. There's only right now. Okay? And if you're constantly projecting what you want into the future, you're denying it to yourself. You're just creating space. Okay? Because the truth is that the moment you have a desire, there is a version of you that already has it. And you already have. Let's not even say a version of you, because all versions of you are you right now. You're just experiencing reality through one perspective of you. Okay? But a perspective is a different reality. A perspective is a completely different universe. It's a completely different reality. When you change perspectives, you have a different reality. This is why we say that we are all one perspective of the Most High. If I'm a perspective and you are a perspective, we're in two completely different realities. A reality is a perspective. Okay? If you change your perspective, you change your reality. The moment you change your perspective of what you're seeing, you switch realities. Okay? Think about a perspective as a dimension, as a reality, as a universe. Okay? Whatever makes sense to help you. Right? But this is the truth. This is the spiritual nature of your perspectives. Right? We don't see things as they are. We see things as we are. All right? So the mask must die. The illusion must starve. And only when the echo of ego quiets can heaven's voice be heard. Okay? It's only when we silence that voice that's telling us that we're not worthy. Telling us that, oh no, I can't have that until the future. I have to do other things. Only when we silence that can heaven's voice be heard. All right, so Proverbs 23:7, as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. And then Hebrews 11:1, faith is the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not seen. So your future is not something that you chase. It is something that you match. Just believing that you have to chase. And I don't want to, I try to put this in different ways because I remember how difficult it was for me to understand this concept. And I was like, oh, you don't chase, you attract. What the fuck does that mean, right? The future is not something that you chase, meaning anytime that I am putting my future into the future, I'm creating a scenario where I have to chase it, all right? So anytime that I project something through linear time, and I say tomorrow, next week, next year, when I have this, after I've done this, when I feel this way, I am creating the chase. So I'm always the author of reality. Okay? So as I sit here and I throw that thing into the future, I create the scenario. I have to go track it down. All right? But instead of doing that, I just need to match. I have to accept it right now. I have to go into my imagination. I have to go into my consciousness, and I have to accept that I'm already the person that I want to be. That anything that is telling me that I'm not in alignment with what I want, that is the illusion. Okay, and that's where the work is. So like a tuning fork, your life begins to vibrate at the resonance of your beliefs. Wanting is not enough. Wanting is not enough, right? Wanting from lack repels the very thing that you desire. But becoming it, living in the tone of your future, that is alignment. Okay, wanting is not enough. Right, wanting from lack repels the very thing that you desire. But let's really talk about this, all right? Because when we really think about the word, to desire is to have. Because the moment that you desire, there's a version of you that has this. So to desire is to have. To desire is the same as to want. To want is to be. So whether you are claiming that you have something, you want something, you are something, These are all the same. But the key part of this is the lack part. What is the difference between lack and expectation? It's a huge difference. You right now can go into your feelings and think about what you want from a place of lack versus what you want and you expect it. You have faith that it will happen. Two completely different feelings. One is your divinity. Expecting is divine. Expecting is I have this already. There's a version of me that has this. I'm just walking down this linear path because that thing has been projected from within me. It's unfolding from within me. And every moment is just a step closer to that thing. This is expectation. This is divine. This is source. But wanting from lack, this is, oh, I need this thing so I can be this. I need this person so I can feel loved. I need this money so I can feel prosperity. I need this job so I can do this, right? Two completely different things. So when we talk about wanting from lack, I don't want to, thinking that wanting something is bad, that's not true, right? Wanting and expecting are the same, but wanting from lack, that is when we throw ourselves off vibration. Because wanting from lack, what we're really saying is that we don't have a choice. Whenever you need something, we talked about this in the context of relationships. When you need a relationship, when you need that money, what you're saying is you do not have a choice. And the God within you always has a choice. You could never not have a choice because you are source. All right? Because you are source. All right, so man, appreciate you, man. Appreciate you. I'm glad you're getting some out of this. Thank you. All right, so wanting is not enough, right? Wanting from lack repels the very thing that you desire, but becoming it, living in the tone of your future, that is alignment. What is the tone of your future? You know, the world will tell you to be humble. But what is humility, truly? What is more humble than walking around and thinking, you know, God is within me, source is within me, and my desires are already promised to me. And now I can walk in alignment with those desires. I can walk as if I already have them. All right? This is humility. All right. Now on the other side, suppressing those desires, right? What that is truly doing is that is suppressing the divine. If I suppress those desires, I'm suppressing God. Right? Walking around like I'm unworthy. That's not humility. That's just suppression. This is lying to myself. This is remembering who I am incorrectly. This has nothing to do with humility. Okay? Walking around like a smaller version of you is not humble. You're just lying. You are source. The God within you is all that there is. All right? So understand the difference between humility and suppression. Okay? So, Neville Goddard quote, right? Imagination is the only redemptive power in the universe. Okay? So let's break down what this means. You're in a situation that you do not like. Okay? Whether it's a person, whether it's a financial situation, and you attack the problem or the quote unquote problem by trying to change that person. You don't like how this person is acting, so you go to them and you try to change them. How does that typically work out? Does that work out well? No, it doesn't. All right. You are in a financial burden, all right? And instead of going into your imagination and seeing yourself as better, as embodying the person that's in prosperity, you go straight to the lack and you constantly just in this loop where you're reacting negatively to every single unfortunate event financially in your life, right? Does that make it better? No, it doesn't, right? It puts you in a time loop. You create the time loop, right? Everything around you is you. It's a miracle, right? So that money issue that you do not like, because you did not want it, even though you didn't want it, you focused on it, so it became your reality. And so now you're going towards it, and it has a vibration of something you don't want. And now you respond to it like it's something that you don't want. You have magnetized it towards you. And now it's creating more and more and more and more scenarios in your life. Because like attracts like. All right? As within, so without. And so the only way to change it is to start looking at everything as a blessing. You created it. Why are you running from it? Why are you upset at something that you create? Look at it, accept it, and choose differently. That's it. Don't react to it like it's something that you don't want. Don't react to anything like it's anything that you don't want. Right? If you walk through life and you just looked at everything like the miracle that it was, damn, this came from me. The things that you don't want could not stay around because you're not responding to them in the same way that you created them, if that makes sense. All right, let me make that more clear because it didn't make sense to me. You're not responding to them in the vibration that you created them from, right? Because if you can create something, whatever you create, it's still going to have the vibration of however you created it. All right. So if you're walking through life and there's certain things that you focused on that you didn't want, that they showed up, you were fantasizing about negative events. All right. If you respond to it in that same way, like you don't want it because you created it from not wanting it. Now y'all match. Y'all are hooked in. Y'all are locked in. And now it has to show more. Okay. But when you're not magnetized to it, it's something you don't want and you respond to it with love. Okay, this is just an opportunity for me to choose differently. This is still a miracle that I chose this. It's all fulfillment. It's all just a projection from within me throughout linear time so I can walk down the path of learning myself more. Okay? Once we understand that, we can't react to anything negatively. And so those things must fade away. All right? So you are not preparing for your future. You are preparing yourself to meet what is already true on the spiritual plane. In the spiritual plane, you already have it. The moment you desired it, you were already experiencing this. You already have it. The only reason you can desire it is because the version of you already has it. All right? So it is not time that changes you. It is truth that unveils you in this present moment. Time does not change you. Truth changes you. Truth unveils you. You speak the truth of who you are. Oh, because I have the desire, I already am the person in alignment with this thing. I no longer have to remember myself incorrectly. Okay? The moment you have financial issues, what do you desire? You desire more money. That is who you really are. Embody that person. Unveil that version of yourself so that it can rise. You rise above your circumstances. You have to be larger than your circumstances. You have to remember that you are the sun. Everything that's surrounding you is just planets, stars, dust. Okay? So reflection questions. Number one, what energy do I believe that my future carries? Abundance or anxiety? All right? What energy do I believe my future carries? Abundance or anxiety? Obviously, it's abundance. Obviously, you believe that your future carries abundance. So why are you walking and worshiping anxiety? Allow anxiety to simply remind you that you're remembering yourself incorrectly. That's all it is. It's a clue. We don't suppress emotions. We don't run from emotions. We don't run from reality. Reality is meaningless. It's all from you. You created it. Why are you running from your own creation? I know some people that do run from their own creation, right? But why are you running from your own creation? If you created it, you can change it. You always have a choice because you are source. Okay? Number two, do I think of my desires as distant or already mine in spirit? The next time that you're visualizing, I want you to ask yourself the question, am I visualizing to get something? Am I affirming to get something because I think that what I want is distant? Or am I affirming and visualizing to experience myself having it right now? Two completely different things. You're not visualizing to get it. Get that out. You're not visualizing to get it. This is not a process to get something. You already have it. You are divine. You are the power. The technique is not the power. The visualizing and the affirming is not the power. You are the power. You are source. You just do those things to experience having it right now to calm your anxiety. So if right now you're tripping about something, you're tripping about this person, you're tripping about this money, you do the visualizing and the affirming to simply remind yourself that you have it. There's no distance. The moment you desired it, you only had to tell source once. You only had to ask source once. All right? All right. So if you've been feeling that, all right, so cool. If it feels distant and separate, then I would challenge you and ask you, are you visualizing and are you affirming correctly? When you visualize and affirm, does it feel like work? Does it feel like, oh, I have to go sit down and I have to do this so I can get something, so I can escape? Okay? Or do you simply do it for fun? Is it effortless? If it feels like work, then that's where I would circle. That's where the problem is up front. It shouldn't feel like work. When you go into your imagination the next time, right? When you start affirming, I want you to sit down, take a deep breath, and affirm as if it's no work. Make it effortless to you. Simply enjoy the moment of visualizing. And in that visualization, imagine yourself actually having it right now. How would I feel? Would my anxiety be going? Make it enjoyable. When we approach it like work, what we're really communicating is that we're trying to do this to get something. Right? If you're trying to do it to get something, then you're forgetting that you are source. You simply do it to remind yourself that you have it, to soothe yourself, right? You use your visualizations or your affirmations as weapons. Your affirmations are weapons, right? So what I always recommend is if you have certain areas that you're struggling in your life with, let's say financially, come up with a powerful affirmation that works for you, that anytime that you have anxiety about money, you can go to it, right? I always have more than enough, right? That's a weak affirmation, but make one that's specific to you, okay? If it's about a relationship situation, you make an affirmation specific to that, right? You keep those in your pocket. You wield them like your weapons, and anytime you find yourself thinking, quote unquote, negatively, you bring those things up, right? This is the purpose of your affirmation. This is the purpose of your visualization, is to keep your mind in a single direction, right? You're not doing it to get something. Please remember this, y'all. You're not doing this because God needs to hear you 18 times. There's no ledger that says, oh, you've only affirmed for this twice, you can't have it. The moment that you accept yourself as having it right now, you have it. Why we repeat things, why we go to our visualization over and over and over again, is because we have an ego. We have an ego that is attached to how things used to be. We have an ego that thinks this reality is real and true, right? And while there's no true way to 100% kill the ego, because you have to have one to go through this earth, you have to have one to go through this life, we simply do that to remind ourselves that it's okay. You don't have to have the anxiety. It's okay. The anxiety just means I'm remembering myself incorrectly. You're pure energy. You are pure source. You are pure divine energy. There is only one emotion, and that emotion is God. That emotion is source. What makes us feel, quote unquote, positive or negative about it is that we have an assumption. And when that energy starts flowing through us, our assumption filters that energy. If it's a quote unquote negative emotion, something we don't want to experience, we feel anxiety. We feel down, we feel negative. If it's something we want to experience, if we have a positive expectation, that energy is filtered through us and we see positive emotions. We're happy, we're excited, all right? So the one thing to remember, if anything, is that you're pure energy. You are pure energy in motion, untapped, infinite, like unlimited potential energy in motion. Right? It's just filtered through our ego. So if you have a negative feeling, a feeling of anxiety, you feel down, you start doubting things, just remember, it is because your assumption is incorrect. You're remembering yourself incorrectly. And so those are the times that we have to soothe ourselves with the affirmations, with the visualization. Right? And you use these as many times as you need until you get your mind on track. But you also remember, but you also remember that no matter what, no matter how you feel, you're always in alignment. Your feelings do not dictate if you're in alignment or not. The only thing that can dictate if you're in alignment or not is your assumption. If you believe that your anxiety makes you out of alignment, then you're out of alignment. Thou shalt decree a thing and it shall be. If you believe that you being happier makes you more in alignment, then that's what it'll be. Well, I'm here to tell you that just because you have the awareness, because you are able to imagine and desire something, that automatically means you are in alignment. You have to be so strong that you can look out in your world and label everything is working out for you. Everything is unfolding for you no matter what it looks like. And therefore it must be. All right? Therefore it must be. All right? So hopefully that helps. All right, so number 3. Okay, what version of myself must I let go? What version of myself must I let go of in order to vibrate in harmony with what I claim to want? Okay. That version of you is the version of you that doubts. The version of you that thinks you're not in alignment yet. The version of you that thinks that your anxiety or your fear, right, is keeping you from getting things. You have to detach. Detach from that 3D version of you. Allow it to go through the drama. Allow it to experience whatever, but in your consciousness, you're the one playing the game. You're the one remembering that you are source, that you are divine. You are the one soothing that third dimensional version of you, but you allow that version of you to continue to walk through life and experience life and have the human experience that you signed up for. You didn't sign up to come down here to suppress emotions. You came down here to remember who you were, and you remember who you are every single time that you walk through a single moment. The moment that you're in right now, when you look around, you have all kinds of clues about what you've been thinking. You can look in your bank account and see what you've been thinking. Okay, you can look at your relationships and see what have you been thinking, what have you been believing and expecting. These are all clues. And so that higher version of you now starts to look at those things and say, okay, what would I have to believe to feel negatively about this? Now I just need to work on those beliefs. Let me make an affirmation. Anytime I feel this way, I am going to repeat this. All right. So this is the self-soothing of yourself. But understand this does not impact you being in alignment with what you want. You simply do these things to help the third dimensional version of you to be better. Right? The healing is for you. The healing doesn't make you more in alignment. The healing is just for you. All right. But in no way, shape, or form do you ever speak against what you want. You don't speak against what you want. You don't think against what you want. I feel like I'm going all over the place right now. So let me organize this back up. All right. You are allowed to feel however you feel. Okay. But you are not. If you have a desire, you are not allowed to think against that desire. You are not allowed to speak against that desire jokingly or seriously. So whatever you have to do to not do that, that's what you have to do. If you have to walk around and speak affirmations all day, if you have to keep a visualization in your back pocket and simply go back to that over and over and over again, okay, cool. You can feel however you feel. You can feel doubt, but you do not think or speak against it. When you feel doubt, you still speak that you already have it, that everything is working out for you. Doesn't matter if you have butterflies. Anxiety doesn't matter if you're crying on the bathroom floor, if you're crying yourself to sleep. You do not think against what you want. This is your only job. Your only job is you don't think against what you want and you declare that everything is working out for you. You gaslight yourself positively the same way that you gaslight yourself negatively your whole life. When people say be realistic, what do they mean? They mean think negative. We flip that around. You always flip that around. Okay? So Matthew 5:8, blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. In John 8:32, you shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. All right? So you cannot enter your destiny wearing a disguise. You cannot fake your way into fulfillment. The throne was never promised to the performer, only to the authentic. When we talk about the performer and the authentic, keep in mind that the performer is the person who does not think that you're worthy. When you don't think you're worthy, when you think that you have to walk around feeling happy all the time like a psychopath, right? When you think that your anxiety gets in the way of getting what you want, right? This is the pretender, okay? This is the performer. The authentic you understands that you are experiencing this life. And the only thing that you need to know is that you are worthy, you are source, you're already in alignment with whatever you want. Okay? God cannot feel what you are still pretending to be. Right? Detach from it all. Nothing has power over you unless it is given to you from above. right? This is what Jesus said when he was confronted by Pontius Pilate. When Pontius Pilate looked at him and said, look, I have the power to crucify you. And Jesus, who represents your I am awareness, said, you have no power over me unless it's given to you, right? Nothing in your life has power over you unless it is given by you. No other person can curse you, right? No other person can speak down on you and it can affect your journey unless you give them that power. No feelings, no anxiety can have any power over you, can take you away from your promised land unless you speak that, unless you give it power. All right. So when we talk about taking our power back and detaching, I'm talking about from everything. I'm talking about you experience life and understand that no matter what you do, you're always in alignment. Okay. So God dwells in truth, and pretending is a form of spiritual poverty. All right. So Meister Eckhart, the path into the kingdom of God is not found through effort or pretense, but through surrender. This is what we were talking about when we were talking about the vision, the visualizations. Okay. Effort. You don't go to visualize with effort, okay? You go in to visualize to experience what you want. This should be a fun time for you. You should go into creator mode. Right? You're not doing this for work, all right? So the path into the kingdom of God is not found through effort or pretense, but through surrender. It is when we can actually surrender to ourselves, surrender to the moment. Allow your body to do what your body does. You know how to visualize. You've been doing it your whole life. Now do this with the understanding, with the knowledge that this is your destiny that you're visualizing now. This is a promise that you are visualizing now, okay? So the soul must empty itself of all false images. Ah, man, right? It's been a long morning. All right. The soul must empty itself of all false images before it may reflect the divine. The false images are those versions of you that are saying you're not worthy, saying wait till the future, right? Anything that is separating you from having what you want right now, it's false. It's a lie. You're remembering yourself incorrectly. So pretense is a wall. Ego is an idol, and idols must fall before the temple can be built. Your destiny does not arrive when the world claps for you. Okay? Your destiny does not arrive when the world claps for you. It arrives when you finally stop performing for it, right? Stop performing. Stop acting like you have to do all this work, and because you're doing all this work, that makes you in alignment. You do the work because you want to do the work, but you understand that right now you're already worthy. You're already in alignment. All right? So reflection questions. Number one, in what ways am I still performing for validation rather than living in truth? This is the lie of the world. You have to work for validation in school. You got to get a good grade. You got to be a certain way. You got to read a certain way. You got to work for validation in the corporate job. You got to work a certain way. You need your performance review a certain way so you can get a salary bump, so you can get a promotion. Even the church, you got to tithe a certain way. You have to act a certain way inside of the temple. But the temple of God is within you. You are the temple. You should treat your imagination as sacred as you do the church. This is holy ground because you are standing in it. You are the divine. All right? Your destiny does not arrive when the world claps for you. All right? So in what ways am I still performing for validation rather than living in truth? All right? So we get programmed that we have to work and work and work for the parents' approval, for teachers' approval, for the job's approval, for the church's approval, right? Because the church is this quote unquote representation of God. It's not. It's just a structure. It's just a business. But once we get to this path, we think that we also have to work for God's validation, but you don't, because God is within you. This is why Jesus says, if you think that heaven is in the sky, you will think the birds are closer to you, are closer to heaven than you. If we externalize God in any way, if I tell you to imagine God and you think of something outside of yourself, then it's highly likely that you will believe that someone else can be closer. Someone else understands scripture more, so they must be closer. Someone else meditates more or prays more, so they must be closer. You might even feel more comfortable telling somebody else to pray for you. You think that their prayers matter more than yours. Like there's some kind of spiritual rank, right? Like there's some kind of chosen ones. There has never been. Why you're chosen is because you say you're chosen, first and foremost, right? As I wear a shirt that says chosen, which is very interesting. But what good has it ever done for any group to believe that they're better than another group? Especially spiritually, what good has that ever done? All right? You are chosen, you are divine, you are sourced because you say so. Because you accept this. All right? So when we start having these false, these illusory thoughts that God is somewhere out there and that other people can be closer to God than us, then you might tell somebody else to pray for you, and because they're praying for you, all of a sudden, you just, right? You can relax, but all of a sudden you have more faith because somebody else is praying for you, right? You're giving your power to them. So it's not that their prayer is more powerful. The only reason that certain things might change is because all of a sudden, guess what? You have more faith now. You relax now. You relax more, and it feels like your prayers are answered. And you're like, oh my God, thank you for praying for me. It was you the whole time. It was no one else. No one else can pray for you. No one else can manifest anything for you in your life, right? The kingdom is within you. No one can be closer to source than you because God is within you. God is closer than your thoughts, closer than your breath, understands you, knows you more than you know yourself. Okay? And then number 3, if God were to move in my life right now, would he recognize me or just my mask? Would he recognize you as actually stating that you are worthy, that you are divine, that you are in alignment with everything that you want? Or would he just recognize the mask, the ego that believes that everything is in the future, that you have to work, you have to hustle, you have to do all these things to be in alignment? Okay? If someone were to truly show up in your dream tonight, right? Let's say God projected out of you and showed up to you right now and said, all right, everything that you desire, it's going to be based on the faith that you've showed in the last 24 hours. All right, I'm going to go take a snapshot of how you've been for the last 24 hours, faith-wise. And you have the opportunity. You can say, okay, I want to submit my last 24 hours of faith. All right, I am so certain that my faith the last 24 hours has been so strong. Take it. Or would you say, no, I need another 24 hours? Which one would it be? Because we act like we don't know what faith is. We act like we don't know what we need to do. But we know what we need to do. We know when we're not showing faith and when we are. We know when we are walking that righteous path, when we are confronting every doubt, when we are not speaking against what we want. We know this. Right? Would you submit that last 24 hours? If not, what is keeping you from that? That's exactly what you need to change in this next 24. It's not even about the next 24 hours, right? It's about right now. There's no future, there's no past, there's only right now. It doesn't matter what you've been doing for the last 10 years, for the last 20 years, for the last 30, 40, 50 years. It doesn't matter what you've been doing for the last 5 minutes. What are you doing right now? There's only the now moment. All your power is right here, is right now. All right? So when we understand that, when we truly know that, and we step into this present moment knowing that this is where all of our power lies, and we utilize faith, we understand that there is no separation between what I want and who I am right now. Well, now you get it. And now the challenge is to reintroduce this version of you to every moment. Walk through every moment with this faith. This is all you have to do. This is your only job. Your job is not to worry about how it's going to come. This is your only job, is to walk with faith in every moment. Your only job. Right? You don't get paid overtime for doing other people's job, for trying to figure out how it's going to happen. You don't get paid for that. Matter of fact, we're going to fire you for that. You have one job. You don't have to be an overachiever. You simply have to have faith, the size of a mustard seed. You simply have to have faith. Blessed is he who believes before he sees. Right? You call those things that are invisible as if they are real. All right? So, section 3, dying to the old to become the frequency of the new. So, John 12:24, unless a grain of wheat falls into the earth and dies, it remains alone. But if it dies, it bears much fruit. Kill your ego. This is what this is saying. All right? Unless a grain of wheat falls into the earth and dies, it remains alone. But if it dies to its ego, then it bears much fruit. Right? And then Revelation 21:5, behold, I make all things new. You're made new in every moment. Every single moment. All right? So death is not always a coffin. Sometimes it's a confession. This is what we say. We say the spiritual person, the person on the spiritual path does not fear death because you've died 1,000 times. Every time every time in your life that you start something new, there is a version of you that's created. When you were with your last partner in your last relationship, there was a version of you that might have seen yourself with that person forever. Okay? And then what happens is that situation doesn't work out. And then you go through the metaphorical death. This death experience. The same way that the phoenix, right, this majestic bird, it builds a nest. And when it builds its nest, it sets it on fire. It flies or it goes into the fire, kills itself because it knows it will be rebirthed. This beautiful, majestic bird. This is the same way that your soul sets up experiences through your life. All right? So you walk through life and then you encounter a bad breakup. All right? And through that bad breakup, you are forced into the darkness. What is the darkness? This is a metaphorical womb. So you are in this metaphorical womb, in this old version of you, the version of you that thought that this was going to last forever, right? That version of you has to die. And then you wash that version away. That energy flows over you. That feminine energy flows through you. And it is typically symbolized by tears, by crying, right? By releasing all this emotional pain. And the same way that womb has water in it, right? And God's Spirit flows over the water in the womb, representing your first baptism before your mother's water breaks, right? You have this same experience where source energy flows over you in this time of desperation, in this time of solitude. And like the seed that is planted, no one can save you. No one can give you enough advice to pull you out of this situation. The only person that can pull you out of it is you. By illuminating your own light, by going within yourself, by facing whatever you need to face from this last situation, from growing. And that light illuminates and allows you to see out the dark. And then you emerge out of that womb, whether it's 3 months later, 6 months later, because we know that everything has its own time period, right? So you come out that womb rebirthed as a new version of yourself, and now you go through the world as a different being. Right? This is the metaphorical womb that you are in every time that you're in a dark place. When you are that seed that is buried. Right? You don't know what way is left, what way is right, what way is up, what way is down. You don't know which way to go, but you just have to keep moving. And there's nobody there but you and the God within you. That's it. It is just y'all working it out. And you don't know if you're headed in the right direction, but the only thing that you have to do is keep moving. Right? The same way when the Israelites were complaining, saying we should have stayed in slavery. And when Moses started praying to God, God said, what are you praying to me for? Just go. Just keep moving. Right? Sources within you. You have the power within you this whole time. Right? Even Moses' staff represents your spine. Right? Because the spine is the stairway to heaven. Right? This is where the Holy Spirit, the Kundalini, the eternal flame, whatever you want to call it, rises within you, right? And illuminates you. Okay? So death is not always a coffin. Sometimes it is a confession. Sometimes it's finally admitting that I have outgrown the version of myself that I once needed. Okay? You have all these versions of yourself that you create in dark times. Right? You create them when you are still remembering who you are incorrectly. And sometimes those versions of you are who you need to be to survive. But once you reach this greater consciousness, you can allow those old versions of you to pass away. All right? To rise into your frequency, something must fall. You must let go of who you were taught to be in order to remember who you were created to be. The frequency of your future is not complicated. It sounds like your truest self humming with divine confidence. The moment that you realize that your desires are promises, this is the moment that you can actually step into the vibration of who you truly are. All right. So a quote from St. John of the Cross: the deeper the self dies, the more space for God to be born. The more space for you to actually rise in your divinity. The deeper the self dies. By self, we're just talking about your ego. That part of you that believes you're unworthy. That part of you that's so obsessed and connected to the world, it thinks that everything around you is real. The more that you can overcome that, the more that you can allow that God within you to rise. All right. And then a quote from Ram Dass: you have to be nobody to be everybody. All right. So your frequency is not found in force, but in fidelity to truth. It is in honoring your desires, not with desperation, but with dignity. When we talk about humility, dignity, how divine is it to know that source is within me? God is within me. And my desires are holy. And because the Most High has placed these desires in my mind, right, I can completely drop the illusion of who I thought I was. I've been remembering myself incorrectly. This is what we talked about the other day, right? You were never unloved. You just thought the mirror of reality was supposed to give you love. So you tried to get love from your parents, and they're not perfect. That you tried to get love from your spouse, from your significant others, through your exes, they weren't perfect. Through your siblings, they're not perfect. Through your friends, they betrayed you, they weren't perfect. So you walked through life thinking that you were unloved, but you were just remembering incorrectly. You've always been loved. The mirror could just never provide to you the true validation that you can only provide yourself. The God within you loves you infinitely, abundantly, more than you can imagine. You've never been unloved. And so the moment that you understand that in this present moment, because this present moment is all that there is, it is immediately projected to your past and your future, and you heal yourself. You begin to heal yourself when you remember yourself correctly. That's why I say the present moment doesn't just project into the future, it projects in both directions. The past and the future. You remember yourself differently when you remember correctly. You vision your future differently when you remember correctly. All right? So the moment that you stop chasing it and start embodying it, you realize the future is not a time. It is a state. The future is not a time, it's a state. The past is not a time, it is a state. You can think of the same situation from two completely different perspectives. Perspectives are dimensions. Perspectives are realities. You can look at the past from two completely different perspectives when you change who you are right now. Know that you are the divine. Know that everything has been working out for you. When you step into that inner knowing, all of a sudden you look in the past and you're like, oh shit, it was all working out for me. Now start to put on that victim mentality. Don't put it on for real. But if you could imagine how you feel when you are a victim, when you feel like you're a victim, when you feel like everything is against you, you look at your past much differently. You have just stepped into a different dimension, a different perspective, a different reality. And therefore, when you step into this dimension, now it's projected not just into the past with what you're thinking about, but also into the future so you can experience more of it. This is why you're not allowed to think against what you want. You're not allowed to speak against what you want. Don't care how you feel. You are not allowed to think or speak against what you want. You are always divine. You are always source. You are always all that there is. You are always divinely looked out for. You are always loved beyond your knowing. You're always abundant beyond your understanding, beyond your comprehension. You're infinitely prosperous. That's it. I don't care if you see lack, you're still infinitely prosperous. Right? It would only be lack if you said so, because thou shalt decree a thing and it shall be. So it could only be lack if you say it is, but it's all working out for you. This is the mirror concept. I say this every single time we get on here. If I hold up my right hand, it looks like I'm holding up my left hand. Sometimes the mirror looks different. And reality is just your mirror. Sometimes when you're looking into the mirror of reality, it looks off, but it never is. The only thing that can make it off is if you say so. To get from where you are right now to where you want to be, reality has to change. And because you can only see a small fraction of it, you can't judge correctly what it really is. You can't judge correctly what it's really leading towards. This is all ego. When we think that we truly can look out at 0.001% of reality and think we know what it is, this is all ego. This is when it's time to confront ourselves. It's always working out perfectly. The situation might not look ideal, but the God within me is perfect. So the situation must be unfolding perfectly. Doesn't matter what it looks like, it's all perfect because the God within me is perfect, because source is perfect. So I want you to think about this in multiple different ways. You can only see a fraction of reality. So you can't even see the truth. All right? So it all is working out for you. But even if you, just knowing that, if you know that thou shalt decree a thing and it shall be, whatever you ask in the Father's name will be given to you. All right? And because everything is a projection from within you, the Father's name is I am. You're never talking about anything out there, anybody out there. You're always talking about you. And anytime you define yourself, you say, I am. Right? So anytime you define anything, you are using God's name. Whatever you ask in the Father's name will be given to you. All right. So if I only see a fraction of reality, that means I never could judge it correctly anyway. So why the hell would I ever look out there and say something's not working out? Okay. Second point. If whatever I say, thou shalt decree a thing and it shall be, right? If whatever I say is what it is, then why the hell, right? Why the hell would I ever say that it's not working out for me? So if I can't see what it really is, and whatever I say it is, when would it ever make sense for me to say something's not working out for me? Please enlighten me. It never would make sense. To speak against yourself, to speak about anybody in a way you don't want them to show up, to speak about any situation in a way that you don't want it to be, makes no sense. It makes no sense. So this is what we talk about when we say, judge things not by appearance, but judge them righteously. What does righteous mean? In alignment with the divine. How do you know it's in alignment with the divine? Because it's what you want. So you never speak about anybody or any circumstance or yourself in a way that you would not speak about God, that you would not speak about what you want. You only speak what you want. All right? Only. Okay, so reflection questions. We have 3. Number 1, what must die in me for something holy to be born? What must die in me for something holy to be born? Holy, meaning whole. All right? What has to die in you for something whole to be born? Well, it's going to be the part of you that's playing small, that looks at itself like a victim, that looks out in the world is like, I don't know, maybe I'll be in alignment next year, next month, maybe when I do these things. There is no next year. There is no future. It's all right now. You have to kill that version of you that tries to create chase. When we say you don't chase, you attract. Okay? When we say you do not chase, you attract. What we're saying is you do not put things into the future. The moment that you say, I'm not going to be worthy until this time, until then, you are projecting what you want into the future and you are creating a chase for yourself. You don't chase, you attract. And how do you do that? By simply knowing that you have it right now. There's a version of you that has it right now. Spiritually, you have it right now. In all ways, you have it right now. And when you accept that you have it right now in this moment, it is then projected in front of you. It's projected from within you. You have it. It's projected from within you into this linear experience. So as you walk down the path of it unfolding, you get to encounter more areas of your life to improve. You get to experience more fulfillment, more love. It's all fulfillment. It's all love. Okay. Number 2, am I brave enough to let go of the false identities that I've outgrown? Are you brave enough to put down the old version of you, to kill that old version of you, to crucify that old version of you, so you can be reborn as something new, as something better. Can you put down that version of you that's always doubting? How do you kill it? You confront it every single chance that you can. All right? And number 3, what would it feel like to walk in the world already fulfilled without waiting for proof? The external world can never validate you. It is you. If you're looking for validation out there, I've been doing all these things, but nothing has changed. What reality sees is it says, oh, you're looking for something. That means something is missing from within you. Let's make it miss out here as well. As within, so without. The kingdom of God is within you. Blessed is he who believes before he sees, right? This is what all this means. It's all the same shit, just said in different articulate and elegant ways. As within, so without. If I'm walking through life waiting for the external world to validate me, since the external world is simply a mirror, it's just going to give me more situations where I can keep looking for something to validate me. You have to walk through life so confident that you are the proof, that you are the divine, that you are all that there is, that you are source energy made manifest in this human form. Either you are going to walk through life and you are going to trigger reality to change because you have changed, because you know that you have changed, or reality is going to trigger you to change. Which one is going to be? All I'm saying is that if reality's been whooping your ass for 20, 30 years and you want something new, I would ask you, how bad do you want it? Because all it is a choice. It's not a feeling. It's simply a choice. It is you going in your mind and saying, I am worthy right now. I am source right now. I'm divine right now. I have everything that I want right now. Everything is working out for me. And you refuse to tell any other story. This is all you have to do. This is it. But the moment you're, I've been affirming for 2 days. I've been visualizing for 3 days. Let me see if anything's changed. No, nothing's changed. Because you haven't changed. You're still the same person, constantly looking out there for something to change. The only difference is that you have more information now. This is the only difference. If you're still looking for things out there to change, this is what you've been doing for the last 30, 40 years. This is what you've been doing for all of your life. And so now you just have more information. You're like, I'm going to affirm a little bit. And you're looking out there saying, please show me, prove to me that I'm doing it right. The only person that can prove to you that you're doing it right is you, because thou shalt decree a thing and it shall be. You have final say so. You are walking through reality as the author, the reader, the experiencer, the main character, and the editor. You're all the roles in one. And if reality is simply a mirror, what would you reflect back to somebody who is looking for validation? You're not going to reflect back validation because that's not what they are. You're going to reflect back situations to make them keep looking. Whatever you have, right? Whatever you have, you will give him more. To he who has, more will be given. But to he who does not have, who has not, everything will be taken. We can look at this from 2 perspectives, right? To he who has prosperity, more will be given. To he who has lack, more will be given. All right? You can look at it from whatever way you want to slice it. If you're looking for the external world to validate you, it can't, because it is you, your reality. Because you are consciousness, you have to be conscious of something, okay? And most of us spend our entire life being conscious of what? The external world, how people think about us, forgetting that they're just playing out a script that we gave them, how situations look, not realizing that those are just projections of us. We are conscious of everything outside of ourselves. We're conscious of the mirror when we are reality, when everything out there is being projected from within me. So what sense does it make to be conscious of anything out there? When you understand, when you know that everything is just a projection from within you, now the only thing to be conscious of is yourself. This is it. Be selfish. Be conscious of yourself. Who are you being in every moment? Every moment is showing you who you've been in the past. And now you get the opportunity to confront yourself moment after moment after moment. Confront your bank account. Stop hiding from it. Confront your emotions. Stop hiding from them. To feel negative about the situation, what do you have to believe to be true? Well, I feel negative because, I don't have prosperity right now. Why not? Well, I just, I never had that much money. Why not? Well, even my parents didn't have. Why? What do you truly believe? When you start digging into it, is you'll come to the realization that you do not truly believe that God is abundant. And if you do not repeat that story enough to yourself. You allow that story to fade away. Because if you understood that God was abundant, if you understood that the kingdom was within you, then why the hell aren't you abundant? The only person that can stop the abundance is you. Is it? Nobody else but you. You are the Alpha. You are the Omega. God is all that. I want y'all to think about it like this, right? God is all that there is. Every possibility, every universe, the version of you that is broke, the version of you that's a billionaire, millionaire, and every single possible outcome in between. The version of you that is happily married with that person that keeps ghosting you. The version of you that has nobody. All of this is already created. God is done. God is infinite consciousness. Do you understand what infinite consciousness means? Infinite consciousness means God is everything, all at once, right now. Now, because God is flowing through you, right? You are the that in the middle of the I am that I am. God's name is I am that I am. I am is the Alpha. I am is the Omega. It's the beginning. It's the end. Whatever the that is you. And whatever identity you decide to put on, you get to experience that perspective, right? So God is all that there is, and you continuously choose how you want to allow God's prosperity and abundance to flow through you based on the identity that you are wearing. So if you're putting on the piss poor identity, the lack identity, I'm not going to be worthy until I do all these things, and you are projecting what you want into the future, and you're creating this scenario where you have to work and chase things, well, shit. This is why your life looks like this. The first step in transforming your life is accountability. It is looking at your life honestly, not running from shit, not suppressing shit, not acting like you just have to be happy all the time, so now I'm just going to suppress my emotions. No. You feel negative because you have a false belief. And now you have work to do. You have to attack that belief. Why do you believe that? Who told you that belief? Was it your parents? Was it the church? Was it your teachers? Was it yourself? Was it a book? If it's not conducive to how you want your life to be, why do you believe it? If you understand that your beliefs and your expectations make your reality, but you have beliefs that are creating a reality you do not want, why do you have them? Why have you not confronted them? Right? This is the ultimate path of self-work. When you step into this manifestation space, this is the ultimate path of self-work. This is confronting your beliefs and your expectations every moment. Right? This is you sharpening yourself. This is you waking up in the morning, every morning, looking yourself in the mirror and say, it's you and me. It's you versus me. This is it. There's no one outside of you. The moment that you put on the script, the moment that you put on the personality that says, damn, all these men ain't shit, guess what you do? You're walking around and you're handing out a script to every man. You're saying, okay, this is my expectation. Y'all play the role. And they all look at you, and every single time that you give them a script, that you have an expectation, they say yes. Yes, man. When you say, oh, man, these women, bro, I can't get it. Man, these women do not know shit. When you start saying that, guess what? You're giving them all a script. You're handing them out, and they all say yes. They all say yes. Creation always says yes, right? Always says yes. If you want to change your reality, you have to start changing your stories. You're the author. You are the storyteller. So as you're walking through life, you're constantly telling a story about reality. This is how reality is. All right? This is how my life is. This is how people treat me. This is the type of money that I make, right? These are the kind of miracles that I see, right? These are the kind of, and this is not just big things, this is everything. This is how my experience at grocery stores are. This is how my experiences when I call centers go. This is how my experience when I call my bank is, right? You're constantly making a story as you go through life about everything. So it's not just about hyper focusing on one thing in your life. Yeah, that one thing is great, but you just receive it for a blip. This is a path of fulfillment. Everything that you focus on, everything that you start to manifest in your life, everything is projected from within you, and there's a path of realization. And on that path of realization, you're constantly confronting yourself. Every moment is just you. You have the opportunity to change your life in every way, to truly live the life that you want. You can live where you want, in the type of place you want. You can have the view you want. You can have the car you want. You can have the relationships you want, the friendships you want, the money you want, the freedom you want, the relationship with your parents that you want. You can have it all. You can have that divine counterpart, that divine spouse. Be it somebody that you already met or somebody new. Hell, if you want 5 men or 5 women, you can have that as well. Right? You're the one that is creating this story. You're creating the story. Right? And the moment that we start judging these desires as good and bad, the moment that we start judging ourselves as not worthy, right? This is the moment that we fall short. This is when we begin to sin against ourselves. This is what sin truly is, right? Missing the mark. Okay, you have these desires, and when you start suppressing them, you are sinning against yourself. You are suppressing that God that wants to flow through you, the God that wants to experience something divine through you. So we're never on a path of trying to suppress. Okay, we're always on a path of confronting ourselves, of looking right into the mirror and saying, okay, what are you trying to show me about me? Okay, do I like these results? If I don't like these results, I'm going to change them. All right? If I don't like these results, I can choose differently. Let me rephrase that. I don't like saying change, because you're not changing anything. Things are done. This is why even when we think that we're changing things, it becomes easier to suppress things. It becomes easier to walk through life and try to be like, oh, I don't like it. Let me resist it. Let me try to change it. No, it's already done. You're already in the movie film right now. Okay, the only thing you can do is choose differently. How do you do that? By actually looking at it, understanding that it's still a miracle being projected from within you. If you look at everything as a miracle, guess what? You're not even vibrationally compatible to react to it like you don't want it. Because if you create it from a place where you don't want it, but you focused on it, it has a vibration of I don't want it. So when you act like you don't want it, y'all magnetize, you get more of that shit. When you start looking at life like a miracle, it's all a miracle, it's all divine, it's all from me. Now, all of a sudden, okay, all of a sudden, boom, you can, when you start looking at it like a miracle, then all of a sudden, the things that you do not want, they drop out of your life. Those things can drop out of your life, all right? So, in closing, are you still chasing your future like a beggar chases bread? Or have you remembered that you are the baker? You are not waiting for the future. You are awakening into its frequency. But only the honest will inherit this grace. Only the naked will wear this crown. And only the authentic will become a channel wide enough for God to pour himself through. So drop the mask, speak the desire, match the energy, and walk boldly into the frequency called destiny. All right? Yeah, let me go back to them questions. But yeah, Christina, that's exactly why. This is exactly why your visualizations will be difficult for you. If you're approaching them like work, right? We are brainwashed by the world to approach everything like work. When your visualization is just naturally who you are, you go into that place, into that sacred place in your mind where you're communing with the divine, you're communing with source, and you simply do it from a light place, right? When we go into our visualization with force, what we're really communicating is we don't think that we're divine. We think that we're trying to force something. When we go to it as source, understanding that every single reality is already done and created, and we're just going in there choosing, now we go into it with a more light-hearted approach, all right? And so also, let's talk about visualization a lot, because I've been getting a lot of questions about that lately. Let's talk about it in 2 fronts, right? So the 2 issues that I'll see people commonly have with visualization is number one, they struggle with creating images. All right. Yeah, I'll definitely speak to that. All right. So number one is they struggle with creating images. So then I would ask you, right? Some of us have gone so unconscious that we don't take enough time truly being in the moment. If you're not in the moment in life, it's going to be very difficult for you to look out at scenery, at nature, and admire the colors. Look at the sky sometimes and admire the colors. Look at the clouds, right? So what you do is when you are constantly taking time to be in the moment in life, whether it's just the room that you're in, looking around at the artwork you have or how things are constructed, taking time, even if you're like on Pinterest or if you're looking at a house, you look at, different cabinets and different, tile. What this does is it creates like a mental storehouse. So when you go into your imagination, because you have taken the time to truly enjoy moments in life, now you have this storehouse that you can pull data from. You can create these scenes from. And so this helps you with your visualization. So this will be number one is, and I'm not saying that there's a problem with you, this is just something that I've seen, is take more time to be present throughout the day. Number two is sometimes people will lack the ability to control their visualizations, right? So you can create, like if I told you right now to think of a cup, you might be able to think of a cup, but if I told you, okay, turn it upside down and move it to the corner of the table, you might struggle and be like, okay, I can't really control it to move. What that typically is tied to is you feel like you have a lack of control in your life in some area. Right? You don't truly feel like you are source, like you are the creator. Right? There are certain things in your life that you might feel are very, very solid, very rigid. Right? Your parents just are the way that they are, and there's nothing that can change them. Would highly combat that, but sometimes when we feel like things are too solid, we can struggle. So those are two things that kind of, we can look at, right? And I can go deeper in that. I've went deeper in that in other discussions. But yeah, if you feel like your visualization is work, then I would challenge you to realize that when you go into visualization, this is your time to create. And as you are coming up with things and desires, this is God also telling you what he wants you to experience as well. Yeah, for sure. Let's get to the comments. So, when it comes to desires that harm others, all right. Now, there are certain desires that I wouldn't really call righteous desires, but that comes more from all right. When we're operating in our lower nature, we may feel called to do certain things, but it's only because we're not in alignment with who we truly are. When we raise to understand that we are source and that everybody is connected and we are one with everybody, then we're not going to have certain desires, okay? And when I'm talking about certain desires, I'm talking about more like grotesque, gruesome type desires, right? Now, and those are like, I'm sure I don't have to name those things. But now let's talk about other things. Because sometimes when we think about hurting others, we might think of things like, if I'm a dude and I want to be with multiple women, right? Is that hurting somebody? Well, this is where we talk about righteousness and authenticity. This is where these things come into play. So let's talk about it like this, all right? If I am the man, if I'm a man who wants to have multiple women, if you're a woman who wants to have multiple men, is there something wrong with it? Well, no. But morality, our sense of what is right and wrong, it typically depends on where we're born. If you're born in a certain place, if you're from a certain part of the world, if you had a certain upbringing, right? We will judge certain things as better than others, but are they? Well, that's up for the individual to decide. Now, when we go about getting those things, we have to understand that living in your truth doesn't just mean going out there and acting. All right? You have a heart center, and your heart center is in alignment with righteousness. What righteousness means is that you're not going out and intentionally hurting anybody, but also you're doing what you want to do. So if I'm a man and I want to be with multiple women, number one, how am I going about it? Am I going about it in a way that's destructive to other people? Am I telling people that I only want to be with one woman? Because this is how authenticity works. If I go to a woman and I act like I only want to be with one woman, and she's the type of woman who only wants a man that wants to be with one woman, okay, cool. We're not even in alignment off top, because I can't be fulfilled by her and she can't get what she needs from me, because I'm always going to be hungry for more. All right? So I have to make sure that I'm in alignment with who I really am, which means I have to, first of all, this is where living in your up. I was trying to give a brief description for this, but let's talk about this the long way. All right. What in a lot of spiritual texts, what people refer to as hell is earth, or a third dimensional reality. Okay. So when you think of the energy centers, you have 7 energy centers. You have 3 lower energy centers. You have the heart, which is the middle, the seat of the soul, and then you have 3 upper energy centers. You really have a lot more than that, but this is from the perspective of what's good for this discussion. When we think of the earth, we call it the 3D, the third dimensional reality. When a lot of people talk about the lower 3 energy centers, if you get stuck in any of these lower 3 energy centers, well, then you can consider that being stuck in hell. What is the lower energy center? It's the root center. This is tied to your sense of feeling free in this world, feeling grounded. We see how the world tries to strip us from this because a lot of people feel like they struggle to pay the bills. The economy is doing all these things, right? So a lot of people are already in balance right there. Also being grounded in who you are. All right. Now, number 2 is going to be your soul, or it's going to be your sacral. Your sacral chakra is actually in alignment with your sexual energy. Now, when people are ruled by their sacral chakra, what are they? They can be sexually deviant, right? They can be addicted ruled by lust. All right, and if you're ruled by lust, I would argue that it's going to be very difficult for you to live a fulfilling life, because people can just use you. If you're a man ruled by lust, people are going to take advantage of you, right? If you're a woman ruled by lust, men will take advantage of you as well, right? It'll be very difficult, even if you're ruled by your lust, to simply focus on higher aspects of a relationship, because you're going to constantly be driven by that desire to satisfy that lower need. So we can consider this being trapped in quote unquote hell. This is a hellish experience. All right. Number 3 is going to be your solar plexus. Your solar plexus is your gut, right? It's where your intuition is. Now, one point, why we call it the solar plexus is because it's aligned with the sun. When we think of the sun, we think of heat. When we think of burning fat, it's heat, heating up the body. So the solar plexus is tied to your food, right? If you are tied to food, if you're gluttonous, right? If you can't control what you put in your mouth, okay? But also, one purpose of the fat that we have in our body is that your fat actually stores toxins, keeps those toxins from being released into the blood. Another thing is that it actually holds trauma and old programming. So if you are eating a lot of foods that aren't good for you, a lot of processed foods, you're not really burning through your energy, burning through your fat. You can store a lot of old programming, a lot of old trauma. It can be very difficult for you to move on from past situations. This is even why we already know intuitively when somebody goes through a bad breakup, what do we say? I'll see you in the gym, my brother. Like, we already know that intuitively this is a part of burning off old trauma. Old problems is getting in the gym. So if you can't control what you eat, if you can't control like your digestion, your intuition is gonna be off. You're gonna be trapped in hell. It's gonna be hard for you to get out of programming. You won't even know the difference between your intuition and programming. A lot of people think that they're moving off of intuition when really they're delusionally moving off of programming and creating a reality that they do not want. For instance, you might meet somebody. You love this person. It's a lot of lust, right? And y'all are reflecting that back at one another. They're in lust, you're in lust, you're loving this, right? You're having all this sex, It's great. Then your mind starts to wonder. You say, damn, this last person I was with, they did this. Hopefully this person doesn't do that as well. But your mind starts wondering even more and more and more. And then all of a sudden they do something. And you're like, oh shit, I knew it. And then it starts wondering more and more. You get more insecure. You're thinking about all the situations you've been through. And then they do something again that confirms that you were quote unquote right. And you say, damn, I knew it. It was my intuition. No. It was your delusion that manifests the situation where this person had to act accordingly. You continuously gave them the script. You were continuously giving them the script, and so they had to act accordingly. All right. So now when we are mindful of our body, when we start to, clean our body out, we can tap not just into more intuition, but into higher states of consciousness. So even when we talk about food, right, you have to think about the digestive process, right? Fruits probably take like 2 to 4 hours. Probably look this up. I'm going to misquote this. But anyways, fruits take quicker to digest than vegetables. Vegetables digest quicker than meats. Meats digest quicker than all that processed shit, right? So once you get to a certain point in time, one of the purposes of sleep is that your body uses sleep to restore itself, spiritually and physically. So if your body is stuck in the process of, using all that energy for digesting, your soul struggles to really liberate itself, to travel on the astral plane, to meet with certain things that can help you. And so when you are actually managing your diet, when you're only eating at certain times, you're eating certain things, and you make sure that when you go to sleep, you are on an empty stomach, your dreams will be more clear. You'll be able to get more sacred communication through your dreams that can actually help you. Because the purpose of your dreams is to help you. The purpose of your dreams is to outpicture certain aspects of your consciousness, right? Everything that you experience in your dream is just a piece of your consciousness being outpictured towards you. All right? And your mind actually allows you to remember things when you're ready. But if your body is too busy digesting the food, and we can go into sexual energy as well, because sexual energy is number one. If you release sexually, right, your body goes into overdrive, because one of the primary functions of your body is what? Is to reproduce. And so if you don't have enough sexual energy, your body is going to strip energy from other places just so it can build up your sexual energy. So this is why things like fasting, this is why things like retention are very, very healthy, not just physically, but also spiritually, right? It allows you to reach higher levels of consciousness. It allows you to regenerate your body faster, and then also tap in more in your dreams and all these other things, okay? And so when we get to the higher, this is what I was really trying to get to, is the higher. I just like to take the long way to get there sometimes, right? Is that your heart is the seat of your soul. When people think of the heart center staying open, they might think of like happiness, right? That ain't got nothing to do with your heart center, okay? Your heart center is in alignment with gratitude, integrity, and righteousness. Gratitude, integrity, and righteousness. All right. So this is the seat of your soul, right? When you open up this center, you can open up the higher centers. Now, I'm only going to talk about the heart. I'm going to talk about the throat. I'm going to talk about the pineal gland. The crown chakra, we can hook that up into psychic abilities and your higher self and things like that. But for this conversation, I don't even want to think about the third eye in terms of having it open or not. I'm going to talk about when you're operating from inner vision. Okay, when you're operating from inner vision and you're allowing, whatever God is placing into your mind, you're accepting these things as promises. You're not operating in the lower 3 energy centers, right, which can be tied to trauma, sexual, your lust, and all these things. You are getting these visions of how you want to live your life, and now you're accepting them as truth. And now you're living righteously. When we talk about living righteously, we're talking about you're actually speaking your truth as well, which actually requires your throat center to be open. So we have to be doing things in 3 ways. We have to be thinking righteously. So whatever I'm getting, whatever visions I'm getting from the Most High, I'm actually taking them as truth. Then I'm speaking that truth, and then I'm walking in truth. So when these 3 areas, when I'm operating righteously from these 3 areas, well, then I'm not really worried about when what I want is, hurting others, because it isn't, right? If I walk through life and if I want to be with multiple women, right, and I'm more so concerned with community than with the actual intimacy with one woman, right? It's like, okay, well, that's cool. Then I'm going to speak truthfully, and there are going to be certain women that align with that, and so I'm not hurting anybody, right? When people are on that lifestyle, that's the lifestyle for them. The problem, right, is when, and this can go into a whole different discussion. The problem is when I'm walking through life and I want to be with multiple women, or as a woman, you want to be with multiple men, and you're not speaking righteously. You can't even be in alignment with anybody you want, right? Because you're not actually speaking your truth. Right? So this is what we see when people just end up hurting each other. We hurt people when we're not walking righteously, where we're not speaking our truth, when we're ashamed of it. Okay, when we've been programmed, we've consumed all these programs, and it's like, oh no, this is wrong. Don't do that, right? Instead of using your internal, compass to determine if this is right and wrong, and then speaking from what you want to do and allowing the chips to fall, this is when, everything is in alignment. When you ain't walking like that, you're out of alignment, right? We see it all the time, right? People throw away all kinds of, people can throw away their careers. People throw away their, they throw away their relationships, their whole family, because they're not walking righteously. So we just have to understand the difference between, yes, you have a desire, but this is why we say we don't speak against your desire. You don't speak against it in here. You don't speak against it out loud. If you want to be with all these women, you don't speak against it, right? And now you put yourself in the position to live righteously. Right? You don't speak. You're not allowed to speak against what you want or think against what you want. Hopefully that helped. Oh, no. Oh, release. You're talking about retention? So, all right. No. If you are on retention and you go a long period of time, you do not reset back to number one ever. Your body is extremely intelligent. Okay, think about it like this, all right? I always try to give things short, and then I'm like, nah, hell no, take the long route. If you have been releasing, let's say that you got introduced to the corn sites at an early age, right? Let's say in your teens, and you've been doing it for like 10, 12, 15 years, however the case may be, and then you decide to stop. We have to understand this from two perspectives. Number one, for your sperm to actually generate in your body, right? It takes about 72 to 75 days for a sperm to be fully mature within you. After that, there's a 15-day period where it drops into your nuts. And then after about 15 days, your body starts to regenerate, recycle that sexual energy, break it down and recycle it through your body. So we're talking about a 90-day process for your body to even get in homeostasis. Why this is important is that your body's number one function is your body wants to preserve its DNA. Your body wants to pass out the best of itself. It wants to preserve its species. Okay, it's just survival. It's always a game of survival, like on a fundamental level. So if you've been releasing all the time, let's say every day, every other day, right? Your body's always in hyperdrive. It doesn't ever get close to being back into homeostasis sexually. So what's gonna happen is that your body, when you start holding on to it, your body is still moving like it's always trying to reproduce. So you might go 10 days, and this is why people always talk about it, the first 3 months. Why I say, if you want to start, go at least 3 months, minimum, at least 3 months the first time, because it'll allow your body to get into homeostasis. So that first 3 months, you'll probably realize that you feel a lot more aggressive. You feel a lot more energy, because your body is producing all of that energy like it is expecting you to deplete yourself, okay? So this is why you might have wet dreams, right? Because your body, when your body's so intelligent, this is a divine machine created by source, right? It is so intelligent that when you get to overdrive, it's gonna release a little bit. Because, okay, we don't need that, right? And so your body will always release when it taps out. And typically this happens the most in the first 90 days. Once your body gets into homeostasis, now it can start reverting, sending that energy to other aspects, other bodily functions. Okay, so that 3 months is the most important. Now, when you get past the 3 months, what is important is going to be the year and then the 12-year mark. Okay, when you go a year, you have a sacred secretion. If you ever want to look it up, you look up the sacred secretion. There's a bunch of videos on YouTube about it. I have a couple lectures about it as well on my YouTube. But the sacred secretion is a process that your body undergoes where every month there's a seed that is basically produced by your brain, and it travels throughout your body. And if you're holding onto your sexual energy, this seed raises back up your spine, right, through your cerebral spinal fluid, and it helps to open up your mind. There's a process that it goes through where if your pineal gland is open, your pineal gland actually swells up. It looks like the head of a cobra. You ever seen ancient depictions of our ancestors? They always use the cobra when they talk about the quote-unquote kundalini energy, things like that. So the head of it swells up like a cobra, and then you have a pituitary gland that's underneath the pineal gland, and it starts to flicker like the tongue of a cobra, right? And so there's this whole process where the seed goes up, you have all these things going on, and it opens up what looks like wings in your brain. This represents your crown center being opened up, and this actually allows you to tap into psychic abilities, more contact with your higher self, etc. Right? But this is just a biological process. Now, back to your question. Long story short, is that no, you don't go back to zero. Your body's not going to give everything. Now, the first time it's going to give the best of you because it's expecting you to have a child. But once you get to the point where you've retained for about 3 months, I would say you, depending on your age, it's okay to start releasing like once a month, once every 2 months, right? I would lean towards once every 2 months, but if you're younger, probably once a month, right? You don't go back to zero. Matter of fact, you won't even have that refractory period. This is how I judge it. If I'm releasing and I have that period of time where I can't get back, well, then I know that I'm going too much. Right? If you don't have that period, your body is in shape. And so the secretion, the actual sacred secretion is for men. The process of retention is for men. With women, I can't speak as an expert to women, but our processes are different. You have to think about it like this, right? Anytime a man releases, he's releasing a lot of minerals. Like that whole substance is just ripe with the best of him, right? You're sending a package of the best of you to create a child, right? But a woman's process is different. Like y'all have this cycle that's automatically cleaning y'all every 30 days, right? We don't have that cycle. So our sexual energy, it compounds in a different way than y'all's. I'd be curious to hear, a woman's perspective on, women's sexual energy, but don't let me lie to y'all. Don't let your boy lie. All right. So, yeah. So I think most people think about righteousness as following religious beliefs. The way that I would combat that is I would say, when you think of religious beliefs, there's so many. And you can think of beliefs in a bunch of different ways, right? Because you have your religious beliefs and then you have the law of the area that you're in, right? And then you might have certain customs that are specific to certain places of the world, right? So if we just thought that they were based on worldly beliefs, why did we create these worldly beliefs? We created them because of whatever sense of morality we had based on what was going on in that time period, the area of the world, what was going to be the best way for us to live peacefully. But it's not always in alignment. It's not always in alignment with source. Matter of fact, I would say it rarely is. Your sense of what's right and wrong, it's very subjective. It can change all the time. It can change based on if you move somewhere. It can change based on your economic status. I have a lot of money, I might think morally a little different than somebody that don't have a lot of money, right? If I'm born in a certain part of the world, I might think a certain perspective is a lot more, righteous than if I was born in a different part of the world. So if we try to say that righteousness is just, a religious perspective, we're always going to run into issues because, at the core of them, religions are the same. At the core, spirituality and religions are the same, right? We talk about unity and this one source, but once we start branching out to the edges, we got lots of differences, right? So that, if we thought of righteousness like that, we would say, okay, that means that only one group would ever, be saved. Shit. Only one group is going to be saved. So if I never had the opportunity to learn about this certain religion, you mean that God is going to leave me behind? Well, that sucks. And if we understand that the kingdom is within us, right? You are the temple of the divine, right? The only relationship that truly matters is you with yourself. This is why I say, this is why Jesus said it. If you think that, heaven is in the sky, you think the birds are closer. Anytime we try to make the kingdom outside of us or God outside of us, we start thinking that other people are spiritually superior than us, that other people can make the rules for us, when nobody truly can dictate your life because you have a singular perspective of source, of infinite consciousness, right? We think that we can even relate to ourselves in our past versions of ourselves, but we can only relate to our past versions of ourselves based on who we are right now, right? So how could we ever truly relate to somebody else 100%, right? All of these, we are all just a melting pot of different experiences, of different circumstances, of different beliefs, different expectations, and we're all putting on extremely different identities to experience this life. And it's all still divine. It's all still divine. Ms. Venice, I always appreciate your comments, man. Thank you. Hopefully I said your name correctly. But yeah. All right, y'all. I'm probably about to jump on out of here. Let's leave y'all with some affirmations. Go into the silence for a little bit. Do some affirmations. Well, I thought I had to get off. Never mind. I don't have to get off. Let me see if there was any other questions. Do any other questions and then go from there. Yeah, for sure. The heart is definitely more magnetic than the brain. Because your brain is electrical, right? You are electromagnetic. Your thoughts are electric. So they go out into the cosmos, and your heart is the magnet that pulls everything back to you. Yeah, exactly. That's why people gain weight whenever they're going through stuff. Appreciate you. Yeah, 7 months is cold, my brother. So keep going, man. It's crazy because once you make it a lifestyle, it's something that you could never, it's something that you have to experience to understand, right? Like, people can tell you about the benefits of retaining, but until you do it and you start crossing those milestones, the month, 3 months, 6 months, year, now, people will, or you'll really start to get a better understanding of your own sexual energy. And your life just gets better in so many ways. It's very difficult to explain it to someone who hasn't underwent it. Even the way that you look at women completely changes. Or you start to realize your flaws, where you were looking at women like objects, right? And you have this time span where you become more and more like sexually, you become more horny, right? And then after a while, that energy, it becomes like a flame that you can direct to whatever you want. You can direct it towards your working out. You can direct it towards your business, towards your job, towards just relationships in general. It just becomes this constant burning fire within you. That's that eternal flame, right? It's that eternal flame. Retention, yeah, but sexual discipline benefits everybody, though, I would say. I can't speak about exactly how it works for women, but sexual discipline works for everybody. It keeps you out of trouble, right? If you are a sexually disciplined person, you can avoid a lot of situations. This is addition by subtraction, right? Adding to your life by removing certain things. If you don't do certain things, there's just some stuff you don't have to worry about, right? Like if you don't drink and drive, you don't have to worry about getting a DUI, right? If you can control your sexual energy, then you don't have to worry about like unwanted kids and diseases and all kinds of things, soul ties and leading people on. You don't have to worry about things like that when you just manage your sexual energy. Even the guilt, because sometimes I feel like the guilt of being sexually undisciplined is actually worse than what you are doing, right? If you have, a healthy conscience that you're in tune with, right? So just getting a hold of your sexuality, right? You're less likely to throw away relationships and lose opportunities when you are sexually cool. Yeah, there's no going back. It just becomes a lifestyle, right? I remember when I first got on it, I used to beat myself up whenever I would mess around and relapse, right? I've been on this journey for years now. And now it's to the point where I have no idea how long it's been. It's been a long time, but if I do fall off, I don't even think, I just pick myself back up and keep going. Right? It's just a complete lifestyle. And then what do you say if someone says that Jesus saves? I say that's their truth. I say if that's your truth, then that's your truth. And that is true for you. I think that Jesus saves in multiple ways. Right? I believe if that statement helps you to live a better life and it gets you the things that you want in life and it allows you to live purposefully and intentionally, then cool. Ain't no judgment from your boy. All right? But I think that statement can mean a whole bunch of things, right? It can mean it from a Christian perspective of, Jesus died for your sins. It can mean it from a metaphysical perspective of Jesus being your I am awareness and kind of introducing you to how to be the creator of your life. We can look at Jesus from a whole bunch of different ways. So yeah, sure. That statement, it makes sense to me. Right? However you take it, if that is a statement that, you live your life by, then cool. I have as well. Heard of women using it to tap into their divine feminine energy. And I've heard about that from an aspect of holding on to it and through releasing, right? So one thing that's actually very interesting to me that I always bring up is, so there's two purposes of sexual energy. Sexual energy is simply creative energy. Like, let's not look at it as anything more than that. Sexual energy is creative energy. It just so happens that one of the most creative things that you can do is go inside of a woman and create a child, create a new avatar that a soul can inhabit and walk through this life experience as another perspective of God. This is divine, okay? However, the other purpose of this is to create. So when you start looking at Tantra, right? And when you start researching other things about sexual energy, you'll see that we only think that our sexual energy needs to be released down here because this is what we've been programmed to think our whole life. I want you to even think about it like this, right? This is one of the things that I really got into when I started going down this path of retention was At first, I didn't even know what retention was, and I naturally wanted to go down this path. And when I started talking to like pastors, and pastors weren't really helpful because they have wives, but like priests were very interesting to talk to, because what I realized, I was born in the Catholic Church. What I realized was in the church, we're told to not have sex, but we're not actually told what to do with that sexual energy. So what you'll see is that even the church has problems with their sexual energy, because this energy wants to make itself manifest. It wants to create. You can think of it like God. The God within you wants to create. Now, whether you focus on the things you want or the things you don't want, you're going to get something, okay? So this energy, you cannot suppress it. You cannot suppress the divine. You cannot suppress consciousness. It's going to flow. So instead of us just holding on to this energy and like ignoring it and treating it like it's bad and evil and shoving it, right? Because that's what people say. They'll be like, oh, well, why don't men just keep it in their pants? Keep it in your pants. It's always interesting to hear that, because it's like, if you understood the power, like how much testosterone men have, like that sexual energy that flowing through us, it's a much deeper conversation. So we have to be introduced to ways to use that energy. If you just sit around on the couch all day and you don't change anything about your life and you just say, oh, I'm going to retain, you're going to struggle. And people that have the most success are the people that actually start using that energy, right? That actually start transmuting that energy, to putting it into working out, putting it into their career, putting it into goals. When they feel that energy, instead of going to the sites or just sitting around and trying to ignore it, they're actually doing things. You start to realize an idle mind truly is the devil's workshop, right? When you're sitting around just as an idle mind, not doing shit, this is when you're going to fuck around and relapse, man. You are going to relapse. If you're just sitting around holding on to your sexual energy and not doing anything, it's going to make itself manifest. So the conversation has to be bigger. The conversation can't just be, men have to just keep it in their pants. Oh my goodness, just keep it in your pants? Right? It has to be, what are you going to actually do with that sexual energy? And when you understand that energy, the only reason that you want to express it this way is because your whole life you've been expressing it that way. Well, now, all of a sudden, I can take a different outlook on it. You say, okay, it's just creative energy. The same way it creates a child, right? Like in Tantra, there is a process by which a man's semen, right? If you enter a woman that actually cares about you, you can't enter a woman who doesn't care about you. But if you enter a woman that cares about you and you do not release, that sexual energy, that semen is actually transmuted to a substance called gene, all right? And that gene can then be transmuted to a substance called ki. And this is your actual life force. So this can regenerate you, make you look younger, make you feel younger, all right? But also, sex should be like a prayer. So one of the purposes of, and I can't go into this without going a little deeper, one of the purposes of sex also is that whenever you lay down with somebody, you form a tunnel, an energetic tunnel, etheric tunnel, or what we would call a soul tie in between lovers. The purpose of this is to transfer information. It's to make you a little bit more telepathic. They didn't have cell phones back in the day. So I went off to war and I was going to come back. If my woman had a single tunnel with me, her intuition would be more on, right? I could understand where she is, if she is in trouble, if she is in danger, right? So this can be very beneficial. It's very beneficial when it's just one person and we're not distracted by TVs and phones and all these options, right? But it's also not beneficial when you have a whole bunch of people that you're sleeping with. All right? So one of the purposes of this tunnel is that sex actually makes you married. Marriage isn't a ceremony, where we sign documents. Marriage is sex. This is why even back in the day, right? You can have your wedding ceremony, but it's not sealed until you have sex. All right? So what is the definition of sex spiritually? Would two become one? So when you have two people, right, they meet each other and you have all these goals and your woman sees them and says, you can get all that. I see nothing but the divine in you. Your woman has all these goals, and you look at her and you say, I can see you getting all that. I see nothing but the divine in you. Now all of a sudden you're also one. And we know that when two join in prayer, it's stronger than one. Right? This is said through scripture. Okay, this is even said in scripture. So when two become one, it's stronger. Now, if both of us are in alignment, we manifest different. Every thought, because we have to remember, it's not just when I get down on my knees and I fold my hands, it's a prayer. Every thought is a prayer. Every expectation is a prayer. So I'm constantly thinking the good things about this person. And all of a sudden you get into these divine relationships, because every relationship is divine, especially in the beginning, right? But you're in this situation and it's like life is better. All of a sudden your money stretches longer. You're going to new places, y'all are laughing harder, life just feels better because y'all see the best in one another, right? The problem is when y'all split up and y'all don't see the best in one another. So now you're still tied spiritually, you're still married, but one person is like, oh, I'm gonna get all these things. And your ex is looking at you like, this bum ass dude, you're not finna get none of that. Or you're looking at her like, man, this fucking bum, she's not finna get none of that. Now this is where it becomes the problem. This is where it becomes a problem. Okay, it's when you're doing that. Also, you should be setting intentions. When you are having sex, that release of energy, this is a huge release of energy. Women's orgasm, a man's release, big release of energy. Now, you shouldn't be releasing every time if you're a man, but you should be setting intentions with your woman. You should be writing down on a piece of paper, right, before y'all, and maybe in the morning, you say, okay, if we have sex, this is what that energy is going to go towards. And y'all write it down and y'all bless it or whatever, and y'all kiss each other and y'all go about your day, and then you start having foreplay with your woman all day, texting her and all that. And then whenever y'all get to the act, at the time of release, you think about that thing. You can think about it, or you don't have to since you already wrote it down. But you want to direct your sexual energy towards things. Or else where are you getting it? Or else where are you putting it? Energy cannot be destroyed. Can only be transferred. It can only be transformed, right? It cannot be destroyed. So that energy is always just being released, all right? Make you a little intention, right? It manifests way faster. Way faster. It just supercharges everything. Okay, this is the power of two. This is the power of two becoming one. This is the power of your sexual energy. Your sexual energy is extremely potent. This is just creative energy. It's just creative energy, right? So the same way that when we, as men, we start holding on to it and our life becomes a damn movie, you start walking through life and things just start to get better and feel better, right? When you bring a woman into that mix as well, you charge it even more. So one part of that retention is being by yourself in that journey, but the second part is mastering it enough where, you're only releasing once in a while with your woman, but you're still using your sexual energy to create. All right? This is the purpose of sexual energy, it's just to create. But also, you never want to be with anybody who don't care about you. For both perspectives, because the body is intelligent. The womb is very intelligent, and the womb goes through a cleaning process every month. So if you go into a woman, if you dive up in that divine womb of a woman, right? Like she don't care about you, and the womb knows she don't care about you. You're gonna get up feeling worse. It could feel good. It could be a good experience until you get up and you realize that you're carrying stuff that you weren't carrying before, because your womb can dump on you the same way that as men we can dump on a woman. Yeah, the old man. Yeah, I didn't even know about that until I started reading. I saw it on TikTok the other day. Or not the other, a long time ago, right? But I wouldn't even say one is better than the other. I'd say they're both cool. But for men, I wouldn't recommend men to release by themselves. I don't recommend men to release by themselves. Now, that's going to go in contradiction to other people, because other people will say things, and that's where we have to choose what works for us, like what makes sense for us, right? The old method is exactly what it Exactly what it sounds like. That big O. So whenever you are experiencing an orgasm, right, to focus on your goals, right, you can do the same process except by yourself. Right? You can write down your intention, you can get to work on yourself, whatever y'all women use. And then when you're actually in the process of releasing, then you focus on that goal, you focus on that thing to manifest it. Because what you're really doing is, in that energetic release, you're pointing your energy towards what you want, you're pulling it towards you. Though, it's funny that it's called that though. If there is only one source, then how can something be true to one, like Jesus saved, but untrue to another? It's a good question. Because yes, there's one source. There is one power. However, by what we believe, we dictate how our lives unfold, right? So the same way that if I believe that my feelings are tied to my alignment, I might struggle because sometimes I'll feel up, sometimes I'll feel down. I can still believe in Jesus in different ways. One person can believe that there's one source, that Jesus is the Son of the Most High, came down here to sacrifice himself for our sins. Right? And you can believe that. You can live your life by that. You can live your life by that morality. Right? And it can work out for you. It can work out perfectly. The same way that somebody can believe that Jesus was just a story. And it is simply, and Jesus being this story is simply just here to teach us about how to live our life in a higher degree. Now, the problem with these different beliefs is probably when it comes to what happens after death, right? That is where we'll come to different conclusions and different agreements. However, there's multiple things that can happen after you pass away. There's multiple different truths. Just like there's multiple different ways that you can experience life. There are layers to everything. There are layered spiritual truths, just like there are layered physical truths. Right? So it's very possible that you can believe in two different things. It's your perspective that creates reality. It is your truth that creates reality. You create your truth as being source. You are source. Source is within you. Thou shall decree a thing and it shall be. Right? You have a completely different experience of reality than me. We can be in the same situation and perceive it differently. And both of us have our different versions of truth of what happened. One of us saw nothing but beauty around. The other one, complained about your service. Both of those are true. Right? They just give us different experiences of this reality. Right? It's when we get into thinking that we, can dictate how God is supposed to be served and how God, has to be experienced. That's where we run into issues, because our mind could never comprehend the vastness of the Most High. For instance, if I give you one story in the Bible, you can have a whole bunch of different explanations of it. What makes one more true than the other? Some people like to say, there's only one truth. Okay, cool, maybe, perhaps. But there's some things that I believed is true 5 years ago, you probably believe that you don't believe are true anymore. There are some things that you might not believe anymore in 5, 10 years, right? What makes any of them less true, right? So who you are right now, what you believe is absolutely true. So who you were 10 years ago, what you believed was absolutely true. Right? We just think of things in a linear human perspective, and we like to judge, and we like to think of things in absolutes, but there is no absolute. Every single person here on earth is experiencing a different perspective of God. We all have different thoughts about the divine, and if we added up all of our perspectives, all of our thoughts, all of our understanding for every person that ever walked this earth, we would still not understand the complexity of the divine. All right? So
Why I'm tiptoeing around this is, I'm not here to say that there isn't one truth, because if you believe there is one truth, then that's true for you. But it comes down to our perspective. Our perspective, how we view reality, is how reality is. The only thing I would say is that you want to choose a view, a perspective that is empowering to you, that allows you to live the life that you want. And that's what matters. Or at the moment that I walk around and I say, okay, this is my belief, and I try to tell other people how to believe, well, then that's when I'm missing the point. That is when I'm missing the point. The indoctrination. No, for sure. I mean, most of the religions that we follow today, the purpose of these religions isn't actually to get us to some salvation, right? People didn't sit around creating these religions to really try to help us get to salvation. A lot of these were just created to help control, to align people to a certain belief so that they could be easily pushed over here. Like, all right, everybody just follow this, right? So, once we get into the religious arguments, I think we're kind of losing. We're not headed in the right direction, right? The important thing is, do you have a relationship with your Creator that allows you to feel empowered? Is this something that's worth dying for, right? Like, are you willing to die right now believing what you believe and feel at peace? Oh, can't hear me? And there are certain things that just never made sense to me. Right now, they can make sense to others. They can be true for others. They just didn't make sense for me. For instance, the concept of an all-powerful God, a God that was all-loving, creating me for the pure purpose of worshiping Him, was always odd to me. Because if God is infinite love, then why would God need my love? God already is infinite love, right? There's a contradiction right there, right? Even the whole sending His Son to go through something like that just to... Anyways, there were a lot of questions, and the gaps in those questions, I was able to answer them for myself by going through a journey, right? And this is, of course, my journey is not going to be the same as other people's, and other people could go down the same journey and they could come up with completely different outcomes. Does it make their version more true than mine? No. Does it make their version less true than mine? No. Right? What you believe is true is what you believe is true. Right? We have to come into our own divine knowing and challenge our beliefs. Right? If I was bored into a certain belief and I challenged it and that's what I wanted to stay with, then I would. But it wasn't, so, went my different route. Well, I'll put it like this, man. Every soul has a purpose. There's certain souls that come down here for the singular purpose of polarizing people. And when you polarize a society and you make people choose sides, now we can have conversations that push society into a better place. So whether you agree or not, it's cool, right? But we can never see the divine plan. Like, we can never see everything that's going on. All right, we only see our singular perspective. All right. And this is kind of our human thing. It's our human mind. We always want to judge things. We love to judge things as right and wrong. Right? When we do not have the final say-so on right and wrong at all, we're just us. We're just one perspective of infinite consciousness. So yeah, things can feel wrong, but I try to remind myself that, that person is just me. right? The person that cut me off in traffic is just me running late for a meeting with myself. The person that I'm talking shit about is just me, right? It's just another version of me, right? And I could have been that person if I was born in a different situation, under different circumstances, right? I think we overestimate or we underestimate how close we are to being somebody else, to being somebody completely different, right? One different incident in our childhood, in our adulthood, in tomorrow, you walk outside and you go through an experience and you can come out a completely different person. We're all much closer to each other than we really think. All right. We got the choice to choose our life experience, to choose our parents to come down here, yada yada. But you know, we could be in a different reality. We could be in a completely different reality if we were born in different circumstances, if we had to go through different experiences in our life. Yeah, exactly. I'm far from each other. I feel like the notion that God made us to worship makes sense. Who makes things not to be of use? Cool. And see, and that's the thing, right? We have to find purpose in our own beliefs. We have to find purpose in our own beliefs, right? This is the purpose of questions, right? When we read scripture, and there's one of my favorites is when Jesus is being tempted by Satan on the hill, right, or in the wilderness, and Satan says, "Throw yourself off the cliff, man. Surely, if you are the Son of the Most High, the angels will come rescue you." Right? And Jesus is like, "No, you don't test God." Right? And a lot of us have the misconception that testing means like questioning. But how can you come into deeper belief and deeper faith without questioning, right? The questioning is the path, right? So if I understand that my prosperity is coming, if I pray for my prosperity, what would testing God be? Testing would be taking all of my money right now and going to the casino and putting it all on red. Like, all right, God, you got to come through from your boy. That's testing, right? When we talk about testing, when it's asking questions, how will I ever form a deeper relationship? So we have to get to a point where what I believe makes sense for me. And if what makes sense is that you believe that the Most High created us to worship him, then that is your truth. And if I don't believe that, then that's my truth, right? What makes one of us more right or wrong than the other? Well, we'll never really know, right? But we will really know, because I'm sure that your conviction is that you are right, the same way that my conviction is that I am right. And we know based on scripture that thou shalt decree a thing and it shall be. So your perspective is what is shaping reality around you. Your conviction is your power. So as our conviction goes, reality follows. Who's to say if God is infinite that you can't experience God in multiple different ways? If God is infinite consciousness. If God is infinite consciousness, all that there is, unlimited potential, who's to say we can't experience God in different ways? I actually felt like that was a bar that I just said. If God is infinite consciousness, how can we not experience God in every ways? However, one thing that we do realize is that, life changes and the world changes, and God is that infinite, unchanging consciousness above, right? But even that is a contradiction in itself, right? Because an aspect of infinity is, if it is infinity, that means it must always be expanding. If it is infinity, it must always be expanding as a circle, right? Where the circle, the center of the circle is every single one of us, right? So the center of the circle is everything, and the edge of the circle has no bounds. So infinity has to be infinitely expanding. Even though we say God is an unchanging, ever-present, infinite conscious being, which the Most High is, the Creator is, Source is, right? But because Source is infinite, Source must also be infinitely expanding, meaning you can experience the Most High in different ways, in infinite different ways. Right? This is the paradox of the Most High. This is the paradox of understanding the ununderstandable, of trying to understand the ununderstandable, right? Even when we think of downloads, right? Some of the downloads I've had that have allowed me to perceive reality in a certain way. Some of the downloads that you may have had, right? Your downloads are specific to you. For instance, I know some people that experience downloads in language. I experience downloads more in feeling, where certain feelings unlock certain things, right? Where I'm not getting information in somebody's not coming and speaking English to me, right? It's more so like a book is placed in my mind, and that book is linked to certain feelings that I'm triggered to remember when I'm in a deep state of meditation, right? Or just walking through the day, right? So we also have to understand that even your downloads, right? How I explain things, how anyone explain things is simply from their perspective. You take that information and then you filter it through your perspective and your ego. So a lot of people can say a bunch of things that are different, but all be true and all be the same, right? And all of it can be the same, even though they're from different ways. They're saying it from different ways because we have to filter that information through human perspective. Okay? Yeah. The changeless. Sources, the changeless, get infinitely expanding and infinite consciousness, right? In itself, like just saying that, it makes sense. However, when you think, it's like, shit. Does it make sense, right? A beautiful way to think of source. Source is the changeless, the infinite, infinitely expanding, the infinite consciousness that is unchanging. This is source. It's beautiful. I think I'm at 1%. I'm at 3%. We go till the phone die. We shall go till the phone die, right? But even now, right, I have a lot of conversations about religion and spirituality because it's basically the most interesting thing to me. You know, there was a point in my life where it was the primary focus for me. And even now it still is, not as heavily, but it still is. But I'm always open to, conversations about religion. The only ones that I avoid are, if someone is trying to tell me that I'm wrong and they're right, right? Because I struggle to believe in right and wrong, especially when it comes to perspectives, right? And there's, in my conviction in what I believe, and other people's conviction in what they believe, right? It's not, we're not going to change each other's opinions. Right? But it's always good to sharpen. Right? Because we have three ways of getting new information. Number one is we can just completely reject that new information, right? We can say, I just don't care enough, right? Or we can get that information and we can't defend our position and we just reject that information. It's just fine. We always have the choice to do that. Number two is you can say, all right, well, I have this information and I cannot combat it. Is this telling me something? Is this telling me that I need to do more research? Is this telling me that I need to pay attention to what they're saying? Right? It's always a choice that we have. Okay. Either way, we can decide, all right, well, this person is showing me that I need to do more research, or this person is showing me that, I just don't care enough to go down that path and do more research. Forgot what the third one was. You can not care, you can change, or you can get defensive and just reject it just because. Hell yeah, it's definitely okay to disagree. Like that's part of our humanity, is that there's no one that we'll meet that we're gonna agree with 100%, right? Like even the person that you end up marrying, you might agree on a majority of things, but there are gonna be some things that we just agree to disagree on, right?
We just get to agree to disagree. And it doesn't make anything less, less beautiful, less divine. In a lot of ways, the disagreements are what sharpen you, right? The agreements feel like connection, but how you handle the disagreements, that's what actually builds that divine connection. Right. Once you have went through these disagreements, you've transmuted, that disagreement into something more beautiful. You've transmuted it into deeper connection, into deeper sexual chemistry, into deeper patience. Now you're in the ball game, right? But when we just are leaning in and thinking our similarities are the connection, well, we can be fooled. We can be fooled. All right. This is a part of our humanity. We're not going to agree on everything. I get on here and talk all the time. I'm sure it's probably nobody that agrees with everything that I say, right? Except for me. I agree with all the shit I say. And there are even times where I'll go back to old videos and I'll be like, okay, well, I've evolved a little bit from that. And then I'll make something newer. It's more in alignment to what I want. But this is one of the things, is we have to go through life and we have to challenge everything. If I understand that my beliefs create reality, then I should walk through life and I should take all of my beliefs and all of everybody else's belief and I should put them through the blender and say, okay, does this make sense for the way that I want to live my life? Do I want to experience my life based on this truth? If so, okay, cool, I'll keep it moving. And then if not, okay, I'll drop it. But that doesn't make me, it doesn't put me in a position to judge if that other person is right or wrong. All right? Even given information like this, right? You plant seeds and whoever resonates with it, they resonate with it. And if not, that's cool. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Damn, that's true. That is so true. Most people are seeking acceptance and to be liked, thereby not genuinely themselves, right? This is where that's where authenticity comes into play. Because if we're not walking as our authentic self, first of all, it's just hard to attract the things that are truly for us. Right? It goes back to the whole sex thing. If I want to be with multiple women and I walk around acting like I don't, I can't even pull who I need to pull, who's actually in alignment with that authentic version of me. But when we walk around trying to be validated by the reflection, by the mirror, by reality, we'll realize that reality just continuously gives us situations that make us keep chasing validation because we can't get it. All right? There's nothing outside of you that can validate you. Thinking that you're going to be validated by anything outside of you is such an illusion and leads to a lot of pain. A lot of pain. All right, y'all. I'm sure I'm on 1%. Let me give y'all some affirmations before the phone die. Let's go into the silence, man. All right, I see you, L, as divine, as perfect, right? As temples of the Most High. All right, remember that source runs through you. You are prosperity. You are in alignment with everything that you want. And your life can change in the blink of an eye once you remember who you really are. All right, y'all have a beautiful day. Remember that you are gods, you are goddesses, you are kings, you are queens. If you do not feel that way, it's cool, because I see you as that way anyway. So I know it must be true. All right, y'all have a blessed and prosperous evening. Until next time.